online at doorsplusllc.com or give them a call at 402-590-5800.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Cobble Chevrolet GMC, and we wanted to give a special shout out to all of our great customers, thanking you all for a record-setting year in 2024. Now let's get the new year rolling with some big savings. Right now at Cobble, we have some of the biggest discounts in the area with over $12,000 off list price or 0% APR on select new models. So stop on in the dealership or hit us up online at cobblecars.com to get true low country overhead in action. $12,000 off list or 0% APR right now at Cobble. So please stop on in or visit us at cobblecars.com. You'll be glad you did.
Wrestling fans, it's time to elevate your game, just like Stevens & Smith Construction does for your concrete needs. As your full-service concrete contractor, we deliver solid results every time. From singles to doubles, fighting for inside position to scrambling reversals, we know how to pin down quality and slam expectations. Stevens & Smith Construction, a proud sponsor of Takedown Tuesdays on 93.7 The Ticket, where Husker wrestlers bring you all the action. Don't stall. Stevens & Smith Construction is here to help you build a concrete foundation for the win. Check us out at www.stevensandsmith.com because stalling is a penalty and winning is the only option.
It's the new year, and it's time for a new John Deere. Acres has all new John Deere compact tractors, mowers, and Gator UTVs on sale with money-saving financing options. Whether it's recreation or landscaping, Acres has the John Deere for you. Visit your local Acres store for details. And don't forget, Acres has a full lineup of used equipment as well. Act now. These incentives expire January 31st, 2025. Financing program subject to pre-credit with John Deere Financial. Some restrictions may apply.
Hey volleyball fans, this is Laura Dijkema, national player of the Netherlands and now the setter on Omaha's newest professional team, Love Omaha Volleyball. League volleyball is bringing the heat this year. Don't miss your chance to see Olympians, national players and national champions right here in Omaha from now through April. We can't wait to see you cheering for us in the stands. Visit lovboma.com to buy single match tickets to see me and Love Omaha Volleyball in action. Go Big Green!
Hi, it's Joel Norman, the voice of your Lincoln Stars hockey team. Tune in to 93.7 The Ticket to hear the latest on the Stars with myself, head coach Rocky Russo, and special player guests.
At Union Bank, people don't have your money. Your money has people. First home people, investment people, people who answer the phone and your chats, dream car people, dream retirement people, driving your dream car in your dream retirement people, small business people, credit card people, and all the other people you need. At Union Bank, our people help you do more than you dreamed possible. So stop in and say hello. We can't wait to see you. Union Bank and Trust. Member FDIC.
In every office, there's two types of people. There are those who bring in bagels and those who eat the bagels that someone else brought in. Everybody likes the first person. Be that first person. Weekday mornings at 7:30, you have a chance to win a business box of bagels from Bagels & Joe. All you have to do is shut up, Sipple. 2 questions for you, 2 for Sip. Win, and the bagels are yours. Lose, well, you don't want to lose.
You lost Monday, you lost Wednesday, you're a loser.
Shut up, Sipple. Weekday mornings at 7:30, brought to you by Bagels & Joe.
Wall-to-Wall Wine and Spirits is your place in North Lincoln to go for all your needs in wine, spirits, and beer. They also have a large variety of cigars in their walk-in humidor, and they have a top-notch walk-in, temperature-controlled, high-end wine bar. Plus, you can enjoy free samples from their tasting book. There's only one place to go for all your needs for wine, beer, spirits, and cigars. Wall-to-Wall Wine and Spirits on North 27th Street in Lincoln.
Hello, this is Mary Pat Waite. I've had the privilege of working with Lincoln families as their realtor for more than 31 years, and I'm so proud to be associated with MP Dodge Real Estate. For me, your transaction is unique in its own way. My experience allows me to bring you trusted care and a really great outcome. My NP Dodge family shares the same client focus.
Expand your career with NP Dodge. Call Eric at 402-434-2222.
This is the Adam Carriker Show.
Position right of the quarterback, out of the shotgun, 1st and 20. Jailbreak screen in the air. It is tipped. It is intercepted by Carriker at the Missouri 21-yard line.
Live from the heart of Lincoln, America, 8-year NFL vet and All-American defensive lineman Adam Carriker.
Shotgun snap to Everidge. He's got the left arm going, and now he's got a whole lot of Adam Carriker who rips him down inside the 25-yard line.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Here is your host, Adam Carriker.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to the Adam. Excuse me, Adam Carriker Show here on 93.7 The Ticket. All right, you check out all things The Ticket at theticketfm.com. You can check out yours truly at theticketfm.com as well. Also, CarrikerChronicles.com. Also, YouTube. Simply type in Carriker Chronicles, The Adam Carriker Show. What are you going to hear? Husker sports, college football, and sports in general. What are you going to get? You're going to get unique insight, unbridled honesty. Producer Jake and I are going to have a whole lot of fun in the process. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, noon to 1 p.m. Central Time. Steve Taylor does a phenomenal job on Wednesdays. Grab your lunch. Come join us here on The Ticket, Monday through Friday, noon to 1 p.m. Central Time. And we got a loaded show today. I'm going to shock you with that. Matt Rhule. Can he be the next Marcus Freeman, Ryan Day? Also, reactions to the national championship game. Notre Dame, Ohio State. We're going to dive into that. And then I saved two of the NFL playoff games. The Commanders and the Lions. We're going to react to that probably second, maybe third segment. And the Bills and the Ravens. So I'll dive into those a little bit more. I didn't get into them yesterday's show. I'll get into them later in this show, either the second or third segment. But we're going to start right off the top, as we always do. Well, as long as I remember, but we always eventually get to it. The prize for the daily trivia contest, it's a $100 gift certificate. All you have to do is call in. All right? You win. You call in, you win. But we'll bring you on air. We'll have some fun. I got a fun, unique trivia question for you today. All right, what's that number, Jake?
402-464-5685.
All right, so just kind of a brief synopsis of the game. Notre Dame, and then we'll talk about Matt Rhule. Can he be the next Ryan Day? Can he be the next Marcus Freeman? What can Nebraska football look like comparatively speaking going forward? All right, Notre Dame, right off the bat, I loved how they started the game. 75 yards, 18 freaking plays. They took 9:45 off the clock. They go up 7-0. Riley Leonard ran the ball 9 times in the first drive. He was like, when you're like, oh, what's the game? Well, just regular football video game. When the player's like all red because he's exhausted. That had to be Riley Leonard at the end of that first drive after 9 carries. He was like the all red guy in the video game or the Mortal Kombat guy where parts of his body are just pulsating because he's been beat up or he's tired. Hey, that was a great opening drive. Great statement. The longest drive in a BCS or national championship college football playoff game in history. Ohio State responds. 11 plays, 75 yards. Take 6:05 off the clock. Score. Make it 7-7. Ohio State scored a touchdown in all 4 of their college football playoff games and all 4 opening drives. All right. Let's see. Ohio State's 2 playoff games prior to the national championship game, they gave up an average of 35 yards per game rushing. In that first drive versus Notre Dame, they gave up 44 yards just in the first drive. Obviously, Ohio State wins the game. They take over the game. Now, I made a note here. I said I'm just going to ignore looking at President Ted Carter on the sidelines for Ohio State. I'm just going to ignore that. Made a little note there. Okay, but Ohio State took the lead on the second drive, which was another drive that just took over 6 minutes, capped off by a Quinshaw Judkins touchdown. Ohio State takes the lead 14-7. And I noted both teams are kind of playing old school smash mouth football right here. And I like that. It was hard because after that opening drive for Notre Dame, all right, their next 2 drives were both, after 18 plays, were both 3 and outs. Their next 3 drives was a combined 11 plays for a total of 27 yards. They had the fake punt, which honestly, if the guy just catches it, it's a first down, but it doesn't work out. There was an interesting note that I made. Notre Dame wide receiver Jordan Fasano. It's actually his second national championship game that he's played in within the past year. He's a star lacrosse player. So he's Notre Dame's best wide receiver. And he's a star lacrosse player for the Notre Dame lacrosse team. I believe they won the title this past year. They're preseason #1 going into this upcoming season. Now, with 3 minutes left in the second quarter, it's almost halftime. I was curious how Notre Dame, because you probably heard they play man-to-man more than any other team in the entire country. Not many people want to play man-to-man versus Notre Dame. They only played man-to-man 3 times in the first half. They gave up 2 touchdowns on those 2 man-to-man plays. All right. But their pressure rate was 0%. And I didn't monitor it the rest of the game. But with 3 minutes left to go until halftime, their pressure rate was 0% at that point. And I was like, man, they are, and they were playing a lot more zone. So clearly they were like, hey, we respect Ohio State's deep ball ability, their ability to throw the ball. Will Howard set a national championship game record by completing 12 straight passes. He completed 81% of his passes. All right. And as we know, Ohio State goes into the half. They're up 21-7. They build a 28-7 lead. I think it was 31-7 at one point. I kind of lost track, but credit to Notre Dame. They were banged up. They were kind of outgunned. And they made it interesting in the end, got it back to 31-23. If they make that field goal that they missed, right before it was like 31-15, and they attempted the field goal instead of going for it on fourth down, it actually would have been 31-26 because they did get to 31-23 and made it very interesting. Ultimately, Ohio State wins. They pull away. They do win. They do cover. All right. And I would have taken, prior to yesterday, I would have taken Notre Dame to cover, but Ohio State to win with all the banged up injuries. Notre Dame made it about as close as I honestly thought they would. I thought it'd be about 10 to 14 points. They lose by 11, 34-23. So Ohio State wins. They do cover. I'm so happy for Ryan Day. I really am. Everything that dude's been through, criticism, which honestly I felt was justified. I really did. Death threats, never justified. Things were against his family sometimes, never justified. I was so happy for him. I had no reason to really root for Ryan Day personally. Ohio State, they're a Big Ten team. But beyond that, I was just happy because of everything he's been through to get that championship. Now, if only they could find someone to drive the golf cart after the game. The poor girl who was driving Ryan Day, Will Howard, after they won the national title, they get in the golf cart. She goes to take off, rams it into the wall. Like, I'm not just talking little bumper car thing. No, rams it into the wall to the extent that they have to get out of the golf cart and just walk wherever it is that they were going. Even when Ryan Day's winning, he can't win. He wins a national title, and he still can't get a proper golf cart driver. I just thought that was kind of crazy. Very happy for him, though. Marcus Freeman. He's done a phenomenal job at Notre Dame, a job that Brian Kelly said you couldn't win at, you couldn't beat SEC teams at, you couldn't win a national title. Now, obviously, they didn't win one, but they beat the SEC champ in Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. Had a great season. I love the way Marcus Freeman carries himself, the way he goes about his business. He's built Notre Dame a little bit differently than Ohio State's been built. It's hard not to root for a guy like that. And so for me, my thought was, can Matt Rhule, can he be, and he needs to be the next Matt Rhule, he needs to be Matt Rhule, but Matt Rhule hasn't gotten to the heights that Marcus Freeman or Ryan Day have been at. So he's got to do it his own way, but you can always learn. You can always get better. I'm watching these two programs. I'm like, can Matt Rhule be the next Marcus Freeman and or Ryan Day? In other words, can he get us to the college football playoff? And can we eventually at some point in the future, make a run? Contend legit for a Big Ten championship. Be in the Big Ten championship game. Maybe at some point win it. Get to a college football playoff. I mean, my Lord, Indiana and SMU. Who before the season had Indiana and SMU in the college football playoff? It can be done. And once you get there, look at the Commanders. I've sat in NFL meeting rooms, and the college football has turned into the NFL in so many ways. Again, talked about this ad nauseum. Ohio State, any other year in the history of college football, they'd have been out. Didn't win their conference, didn't play for it, had 2 losses, bad losses, finished 4th in the Big Ten, not even in the top 3, 4th. Yet, they win the national title. So, I've sat in NFL meeting rooms like Mike Shanahan with the Skins. He flat out told us before the season, he goes, I don't care what seed we are. And back then, there was 6 teams that got in the NFC, 6 in the AFC. They since expanded to 7 on each side. He's like, I just want to be one of the 6 teams that gets in the NFC. Because once you get in, that's all that matters. The second season, anything can happen. That's what college football has turned into. Can Matt Rhule be the next Marcus Freeman or Ryan Day? Now, I do believe, and I know for a fact that 1890 has stepped up. The NIL has stepped up. It has improved. It is giving us a chance to be in conversations and to win some of the transfer portal and high school recruiting battles that otherwise would have been way more challenging, and the odds would have been stacked even higher against us. Ohio State, largely built through the NIL. Chip Kelly's a good offensive coordinator. I do believe Ryan Day is a good coach, but they were unequivocally the best roster in America. I've been saying that since last summer. I predicted them to win it last summer because they had the best roster. My big question mark was Will Howard. I said a few times, they got the best 21 players in America. My question mark is the guy who lost his job at Kansas State. How's he going to perform? And he did pretty darn good. He went from losing his job at Kansas State to now some scouts got him as like a first-round pick potentially, slowly sneaking up the draft boards. I want to know from the text line, would you take Will Howard as a first-round pick? And I posed this on social media last night. Would you, because there are some scouts that don't have Shadur Sanders as a first-round pick. Let's change that question. Would you rather draft Will Howard or Shadur Sanders? Let me know on the text line. What's that number, Jake?
402-464-5685.
It continues to never change. But I like just hearing Jake say it. Make sure he's awake, not snoozing over there. Let me know. Would you rather have Will Howard or Shadur Sanders? If you were an NFL GM and they were both available, you needed a quarterback, and you're on the clock in the draft, who would you take? Now, Matt Rhule, can he be the next Marcus Freeman or Ryan Day? Our collective in 1890 and our NIL has stepped up. We're eventually going to go to revenue sharing. That's going to make life easier. There's going to be contracts. There's already some players that are actually signing contracts so they can't enter the portal 15,000 times. Not everybody. That day's coming to where everybody does it. This summer, revenue sharing's coming. That's going to make it easier. I don't know that we're going to be so similar to the Ohio State model, though, as we will Notre Dame. It was one of the reasons, and it happened. It happened. I said I'm going to try to force myself to root for Ohio State, but I'm going to inevitably root for Notre Dame. As much as I'm going to whine and complain and moan that they're not in a conference because it's absolutely god-awful that they're not, all offseason, I knew because they're the underdog, and I like Marcus Freeman, and I like the way that they play football this year. Notre Dame, I knew I was going to end up rooting for them, and by God, I did. The only reason I rooted for Ohio State at the end was because I predicted that Ohio State was going to win and cover, and I'm like, oh God, they're down by 8. I need them to win by more than 8 just so I can say that I was right. You know, the important things in life, right, Jake? You got to have your priorities.
That's right. Got to be right.
That's right. That's what matters. That's my wife. She does a phenomenal job of being right, way more than I am, unfortunately. I look at Notre Dame, and I see a path that can be akin and or similar to Nebraska. Now, people don't go to Notre Dame with the religious standards and the academic standards unless they really want to be there. So they don't tend to have the amount of people transfer that other schools do. And they're also going to tend to have less people transferring in because they don't have as many people transferring out. And Marcus Freeman has done a great job in a northern state, in a cold environment, in a state of Indiana that's known way more for basketball than football, by most people anyways. Obviously, Notre Dame's known for football specifically, and he's managed to build a culture in a time and a place and an era when it's hard to do it. He has built a team that played complementary football. We're going to run the ball. We're going to stop the run. We're going to play great special teams. They were number 1 in the country in turnovers, turnovers forced and points off turnovers, point differential margin in as far as forcing turnovers. That was really easy for me to say. But you get my point. They weren't the most talented. They have a good roster, but they needed to run the ball, hence their quarterback running the ball 9 times on the first drive. They needed to stop the run. They needed to beat you in the little things, special teams, turnovers, penalties. And that was really how they did it all year. Outside of one game, that was how they did it. That's how they beat Georgia, which has the top 2 roster in America. I think Georgia was number 2, in my humble opinion. Then you got Texas and Oregon right there, 3 or 4. Alabama, talent-wise, is easily top 5. Talent composite rankings has them number 1. A lot of young players mentioned that a million times. My point is, I look at Notre Dame, and I think we can spend enough money in the NIL collective to say, hey, we're in this conversation of these teams that were in this playoff, Indiana, SMU, and everyone else that was in there, Arizona State, Boise State, Penn State. We can be in this conversation. Now, Matt Rhule's obviously made some adjustments. He's obviously building more through the portal, and necessarily so. I mean, we had to. And you could argue maybe he was too loyal to some of the older players for too long. That's a fault that I don't hate in a coach, but he's recognizing things he needs to change. Special teams, offense. All right, I'm going to have to go more through the portal. He's learning on the job. Tom Osborne learned on the job. Other coaches have learned on the job. Ryan Day is still learning on the job because when is he going to beat Michigan? Hey, I'm happy for the guy. But he's still learning on the job, and he just won a national title. I look at Marcus Freeman. I see similarities as far as conduct of character between him and Matt Rhule. They both are high-class individuals. I see guys who want to build a program from the inside out while calling necessary audibles in the way they're going to build the program along the way. I see guys who want to play physical football, want to play defense, want to run the ball, although I am excited to see Dana Holgerson's offense next year. I know it's not pure air raid, but I'm excited to see it nonetheless. And I look at a school like Notre Dame that Brian Kelly said, you can't do it here. Clearly you can. And I look at a school like Nebraska, well, people say, you can't do it there. Bull crap, you can. Did it here for over 40 years. First and foremost, have done it with other programs. Look at volleyball. Baseball just won a Big Ten title. Nebraska women's basketball is doing pretty good. You look at wrestling's top 10. It can be done here. Don't give me that crap. I already talked about how every national champion, JUCO, FCS, FBS, and the like, all of them are from the North this year. It can be done. Brian Kelly said it couldn't be done at Notre Dame. I'm going to LSU, where Marcus Freeman is going to have a better win-loss record than me going forward, but I'm going to go anyways. And Marcus Freeman's done a great job. I think the kicker for me was when Brian Kelly started whining, complaining, and moaning when he lost 2 5-star players because they went elsewhere for more money. And I'm like, pot, kettle black. What? That's when I kind of turned on Brian Kelly. Like, all right, I hated what you did. Now I hate that you're whining about people doing the same thing that you did. I'll leave Brian Kelly alone. My point is simply this. I look at the effort our NIL is making. I look at how Notre Dame won and has been built. And I see Matt Rhule possibly being able to do it very similarly and getting us into that playoff at some point. I'm not talking this year. I'm not saying it won't happen this year. At some point. And when you get in, you never know what can happen. The 2 teams who just played for the national title were the 7th and 8th seeds. Yes, the way we see teams is asinine. But this year, they were the 7th and the 8th seeds. There's a 6th seed from the NFC, the Commanders, playing in the NFC Championship game this weekend with a rookie frickin' quarterback, I might add. I'm willing to be patient with this, but I do see some similarities between specifically what Notre Dame has done and what Matt Rhule is trying to do, and the potential is there for a similar path to us playing at a much higher level and being talked about more nationally because we're winning more football games. Now, specifically, what does that mean? Got to let it unfold. All right, Jake. That was a very unplanned diatribe. I hope it made sense. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is. I think you're going to have to be patient to see Nebraska kind of get that result. You know, you kind of think about maybe they can do it here and there, and I think that's kind of where Nebraska is as a program. There's certain programs that are going to be year after year monsters, and Nebraska just at that point. I mean, maybe they can build into that. But right now, you look at even the teams, and I'm wondering about Notre Dame next season. Look at the teams that finished runner-up the last couple of years in these playoffs. TCU, Washington. I mean, so that tells you, right? It can be done. You can get there, but can you sustain it? We'd have to wait and see. But my God, Nebraska fans would just like to get there. One great season would be enough for Nebraska fans, at least for a bit.
You make a good point with the runner-up. I mean, if you remember, TCU actually didn't win the Big 12. Kansas State did that year. So I always thought TCU was kind of fraudulent. Had they gone undefeated, won that overtime game, the Big 12 Conference Championship game versus Kansas State, I would have felt different. But I was kind of like, oh. And then they beat Michigan, which is kind of those anybody can beat anybody on any given day type games. That's how I felt. Like, didn't J.J. McCarthy have like 4 picks and 2 pick sixes? Like, just kind of an anomaly type day. And TCU was good, but I didn't even think they should be one of the top 4 teams. But hey, kudos to them. You look at Washington, I can tell you for a fact they were built different. They were built through the portal. People came, people left. There's going to be a lot more volatility if you build purely through the portal. Look at Florida State. About as volatile as you can get. Undefeated to, my God, what were they? 2-11 since, if you include the 63-3 Orange Bowl loss to Georgia, and then this past season where they went 2-10. And they only beat one FBS team. That's kind of why I'm like, I see Rhule adjusting and doing more through the portal. But that's kind of why I looked at Notre Dame. They want to build more from the inside out, have a better foundation. So while it may take longer, which is why I preach patience, and I'm like, give it time. I'm willing to be patient. I think it'll be more sustainable long term. And I just want to get in the conversation. So I kind of think like Matt Rhule, the way he's wanting to do things, build things. I see it akin, and just like I said, the conduct of their character. It's hard not just to just be a fan of Marcus Freeman in general. Matt Rhule does kind of approaches things very similar, in my humble opinion. Like I said, very high classy guys who want to do things the right way. And that's kind of why I look at Notre Dame, and I don't know if they'll make the national title game next year or whatever. I have no idea what they do or don't have coming back. But I do know they're built more from the inside out. And I think it's a little bit more sustainable to be consistent long term. So any final thoughts there, Jake?
No, you make some good points. It's interesting to see. Again, Nebraska has their own challenges. I think for me, it's hard to jump to that level of asking this, right? Like that's the goal and that's the hope at some point. But even when Nebraska builds back to, hopefully your 8-9 win mark, Matt Rhule's going to have to start proving he can win top 25 games. I mean, there's a few hurdles for me to get over about consistent, let alone consistently beating Minnesota's and Iowa's before we get into making a college football playoff run. Now, it can all happen at once. Some of these teams have done that, right? Indiana, who just went from, really down low to a college football playoff appearance. So it can happen at once, but just seems like a lot of obstacles to bypass along the way.
No, you make a great point. Like Indiana went from 3-9 to 11-1. They won more total combined games this year than they did the previous 3 years combined. They won more Big Ten conference games this year than they did the previous 3 years combined. So you make a great point. What I'm not saying is I'm not saying this year. I'm not even saying next year. Okay. What I am saying is being patient a couple years down the road. I'd be happy. We've talked about the leap and the jump, and I'm sure we'll talk about that more throughout the offseason. To me, that says 9 wins. I'd be shocked if I ever do a preseason prediction where I predict us to win 9 games. I'd be flabbergasted. That's Rhule saying jump, the year 3 jump, which I wish he'd stop saying. It just brings undue and unnecessary pressure that maybe he thrives under. Maybe that's why he does it. I'd be happy with 7, I guess. That'd be like the bare minimum. Let's keep getting better. I think 8 would be pretty good. And if we had a long snapper this year, we could have beaten Illinois and at least tied Iowa, gone to overtime, probably win that game. We win 8 games this year. So I do feel like that's feasible. And then you start talking about maybe 9, 10 wins and things of that nature down the road. So again, I'm kind of looking more long term, to be clear. I'm not talking about next year, but long term. Marcus Freeman lost his first 3 games as a head coach. Okay, so Brian Kelly bolts. They play Oklahoma State in the Fiesta Bowl. They lose. Then they lose the opening game the next year. Then they lose to freaking Marshall. And oh, wow. People were starting the locker room that erupted when he was announced as the head coach. All of a sudden, everyone was like, this may not be the guy. So he started off pretty rough as well. You look at Ryan Day, who's been probably the most heavily criticized coach in America. All right. And so it took Marcus Freeman a while to build it back up and to get that first win and kind of build from there. So maybe it's a little bit similar to Matt. Maybe we get 8 wins this year. Maybe we build to 9 or 10 the next year. And then maybe we're in a conversation where hopefully we're not as volatile as some of these other teams, but we're in that conversation for potentially going to Indy if we can beat the Minnesotas and the Iowas and all those teams consistently, like you said, because that's a great point. But then we're in that conversation for, hey, can we get in the playoffs somehow? And by then it maybe have 82 teams in it. So, by then we might be in the playoff just if we go 500. So, all right. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back.
Are you ready for a new opportunity? Check out Sandhills Global. Join a dynamic team where your skills are valued and your career can soar. We offer full-time positions with a 4.5-day work week, competitive pay, excellent benefits, and a positive work environment. From IT and marketing to sales and finance, we're looking for talented individuals just like you. Apply today at sandhills.jobs and take the first step towards an exciting future. That's sandhills.jobs. Don't wait, apply now.
Hey everyone, Lance here with Black Label. We specialize in creating custom crafted decks, pergolas, patio covers, and more. Plus, our retractable screens, gazebos, and patio enclosures create the ultimate outdoor retreat. With over 50 years of combined experience, we're not just builders, we're creators of unforgettable memories.
Call them today at 402-730-6333 or visit blacklabelbuilt.com for a free consultation.
Let's turn your backyard dreams into reality.
Black Label Built, built to serve, built to last.
At Union Bank, people don't have your money. Your money has people. First home people, investment people, people who answer the phone and your chats. dream car people, dream retirement people, driving your dream car in your dream retirement people, small business people, credit card people, and all the other people you need. At Union Bank, our people help you do more than you dreamed possible. So stop in and say hello. We can't wait to see you. Union Bank and Trust. Member FDIC.
Things that impair you come in many different shapes and sizes. Some are the shape of beer and liquor bottles. Others look like cigarettes but aren't cigarettes at all. These are the things we know impair us, the things our parents warned us about. What we're not always aware of is our new prescription or the over-the-counter medicine we picked up just for allergies or a bad cold. See, it doesn't just matter how much of a substance you take. If you are impaired, driving is deceptively dangerous. Don't drive impaired. Paid for by the NDOT Highway Safety Office.
Wall to Wall Wine and Spirits is your place in North Lincoln to go for all your needs in wine, spirits, and beer. They also have a large variety of cigars in their walk-in humidor, and they have a top-notch walk-in, temperature-controlled, high-end wine room. Plus, you can enjoy free samples from their tasting book. There's only one place to go for all your needs for wine, beer, spirits, and cigars. Wall to Wall Wine and Spirits on North 27th Street in Lincoln.
Big box stores are tempting for buying equipment for your high schooler in sports or for yourself in your sports leisures. But buying new is awfully expensive. Why not go somewhere with new and used options? Play It Against Sports has quality, slightly to gently used equipment, and 50% of their inventory is actually new equipment. And it's more than baseball, softball, and golf. They also have equipment for disc golf, fitness, hockey, and more. Plus, they're always buying products. Bring your gear you're done with and get trade money on the spot. Play It Against Sports at 48th and Vine.
In every office, there's two types of people. There are those who bring in bagels and those who eat the bagels that someone else brought in. Everybody likes the first person. Be that first person. Weekday mornings at 7:30, you have a chance to win a business box of bagels from Bagels & Joe. All you have to do is shut up, Sipple. 2 questions for you, 2 for Sip. Win, and the bagels are yours. Lose, well, you don't want to lose.
You lost Monday. You lost Wednesday. You're a loser.
Shut up, Sipple. Weekday mornings at 7:30, brought to you by Bagels & Joe.
Hi, it's Joel Norman, the voice of your Lincoln Stars hockey team. Tune in to 93.7 The Ticket to hear the latest on the Stars with myself, head coach Rocky Russo, and special player guests.
93.7 The Ticket, Fox, KFXL weather. Brought to you by Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing.
Your Lincoln forecast for today, mainly sunny and breezy. Cold this morning, but warming up to around 25 this afternoon. Tonight, a slight chance of snow, otherwise mainly cloudy, and a low near 21. And tomorrow, a chance of snow, otherwise mainly cloudy with the high near 37. I'm meteorologist Kyle Fletcher from 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Be sure to check out the top-selling Recomp. Recomp helps build lean muscle and strength while decreasing body fat. Recomp is ideal for men and women of all ages trying to look their best. Recomp can only be found in Nutrition Authority. For info, visit mynutritionauthority.com.
Outside is where winter adventure unfolds. On frozen lakes, icy landscapes, and snow-covered slopes. Feeling the cold air rush by as you race downhill. The freedom of gliding with ease and the warmth of being together. From epic sled rides to the fun of ice fishing, it's all right here beneath Nebraska skies. Start your winter adventure at yournebraskaparks.com. Sponsored by Nebraska Game and Parks, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Associations and this station.
This is the Adam Carriker Show on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Adam Carriker Show here on 93.7 The Ticket. This segment of the Adam Carriker Show on The Ticket is sponsored by our good friends at Mulberry Barbecue at 11th and Cornhusker, open Monday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Try their burn-in sandwich, a brisket burrito, barbecue nachos, a full slab of ribs, a half-smoked chicken, and much more. Plus incredible size. Get fueled for lunch today or make dinner plans at Mulberry Barbecue by Single Barrel, located at 11th and Cornhusker. All right, Jake, I got a question for you. You ready?
I'm ready.
Let me see if I can get it right here. When was the first, last, and only time a woman, girl, female, however you want to phrase it, was a part of the Nebraska football team?
Yeah, I don't get the answer on that one.
The Cornhuskers 2000 Red-White Spring Game featured Nebraska's first and only female player, Kalena Beanie Barnes, a senior sprinter for Nebraska women's track and field teams, played in spring practice as a punter and recorded 135-yard punt. She would not stay with the team for the regular season, however. But I was not aware of that when that was sent to me. I thought that was kind of interesting.
That is very cool, yeah.
It's interesting to me that she wasn't like a soccer player. Normally it's a soccer player that comes in and kicks field goals. She punted and was a sprinter. Probably just an athlete, then I would assume.
Yeah. When you said she was a sprinter, I was like, oh, did they have a run? They got me worried about what she was doing out there.
Yeah, that would have been entertaining to watch. All right, man. What were your thoughts on the Commanders, the Lions? Man, it's like the Commanders needed certain things to go right to get the win. And part of that was starting off the game fast. They needed turnovers. I believe Goff had 4 turnovers. They needed some things to bounce their way, and they needed their rookie quarterback to play like he'd been there before. Check, check, check. Turnovers by the Lions. They scored early. It was, 31-21 at halftime? It's like a final score. It was 31-21 at halftime. By the way, the 45 points scored was the most amount of points scored by a road team in an NFL playoff game in history. All right. And they needed the turnovers. And credit to the Commanders. This wasn't some sort of fluke. This wasn't luck. They went in and they beat the Lions. They were the better team on that day, beat them, and now they're in the NFC Championship game. What are your thoughts? Final thoughts on Commanders, Lions there, Jake?
Well, like you said, and you mentioned this the other day, that the winning teams had a good week as far as staying clear of turnovers. I think every winning team lost the total yards battle, which was kind of interesting as well. But in this game specifically, that's what it came down to. I mean, they had, a 14-point win for Washington ultimately, and they won the turnover battle 5-0. That can be pretty tough.
Putting it mildly. That's almost insurmountable.
Yeah.
Or I've said it on the show. So hopefully you get this right. What team had a -6 turnover disadvantage in a game earlier this year and still won the game?
I do remember you saying something, but man, college. Okay. Ooh. I can't remember.
SMU.
Okay, that's right. Yeah.
They -6 versus BYU and still found a way to win that game. That was amazing to me. All right. As I mentioned, Commanders led 31-21 at halftime. And at that point in the game, between the two teams, there were 7 touchdowns scored by 7 different players. The Lions and Commanders combined for 42 combined points in the second quarter, the most points scored in a quarter in an NFL playoff game in history. Now, just a couple of interesting notes. These teams went for 4th down. Like Dan Quinn went, I'd have to look it up, but how many times he went for 4th down? There were so many times they could have just kicked a field goal. Now, the Commanders have had 6 different field goal kickers this year, so he doesn't have a whole lot of faith. He's also got the idea of and the mindset is of what do we got to lose? We got a rookie quarterback with a number 6 seed. We ain't been to the NFC title game since 1991, 33 years. Washington, throughout the regular season, Detroit had the most 4th down conversion attempts in the league throughout the regular season. Washington, ironically, had the highest 4th down conversion rate of any team in the league. All right, Jahmyr Gibbs this season was the first Lion to lead the NFL in scrimmage touchdowns since 1991. Who was the back who did it in 91? You got to get this one right, Jake. It's so obvious.
You said it again. It was a Barry Sanders. I don't even know what the question was.
If it's Lions, running back, statistical history, it's Barry Sanders.
It's Barry Sanders. That's right.
All right. And then David Montgomery, 12-plus rushing touchdowns, all right, in consecutive seasons. He's the first Lion to do that since 1991. Who was that running back, Jake?
Was it Barry Sanders?
It was Barry Sanders. You nailed it. All right. Jane Daniels has over 300 yards rushing this season when escaping, not total rushing. He has over 900 rushing yards on the season, which is a quarterback record in the NFL, rookie record. He has over 300 yards rushing this season when escaping from unblocked blitzers, guys who were just coming free, and he's trying to get away from them. All right. I still remember watching him when he was at Arizona State, and he was 165 pound, scrawny little true freshman playing from Herm Edwards. Then he transfers to LSU, wins the Heisman, and now he's like, you look at the guys that are left: Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels. Out of those four, can you tell me who's playing the best and who's playing the worst right now in the NFL as a quarterback?
Boy, you might have to put Daniels up near the top.
Exactly. That's my point. He's not. I don't know who would be better. I would actually say Daniels and Josh Allen would be my top two.
Hurts is kind of struggling right now.
Well, his knee at the end of that game. And that's what I'm like. If he's not healthy, and they're never going to tell anybody if he's healthy or not. You just got to watch the game and find out on Sunday. If he's not healthy, I'm taking the Commanders. The Commanders are 1-1 against the Eagles this year. 1 win, 1 loss. They're division foes. If he's not healthy, I'm taking the Commanders. If he is, it's going to be a tougher choice for me. All right, 1991 was the last time the Commanders played in the NFC title game. They actually beat the Lions on that day. They won the Super Bowl in 1991. And it's actually interesting, living in D.C., they talk about that 91 team a lot. Of all the Super Bowl champions in history, throughout all their NFL playoff runs, that 91 Redskins team had the largest margin of victory throughout the playoffs of any Super Bowl champion and NFL playoff run in history. So there's an argument to be made that is the greatest Super Bowl winning team of all time. Now, I don't know how much you know and how much you're familiar with that team and how they compare over time to other Super Bowl champions, but what are your thoughts on that? Because there's a lot of Redskins Commanders fans who feel that way. Completely biased, but what are your thoughts on that, Jake?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It's one of those things that, again, is before my time, so you have to go back and look at what they were doing there. But I mean, it wasn't like they were a team like this year that kind of made a wild card. I mean, they're 14-2 in the regular season. Look at some of the players that have. Joe Gibbs obviously leaning it there. It's interesting. I'm glad that you brought it up because I outside of Washington, I'm sure it's huge in Washington, but I haven't necessarily heard too much of that. But they could have a case.
Yeah, they pretty much destroyed everybody. And I'm trying to look up the scores here real quick of the playoff games. I remember let's see here. The Skins outscored their opponents. Right, they only gave up 6 yards per pass attempt defensively, which is ridiculous. For comparison, Nebraska averaged 7 yards per pass attempt last year, and we weren't exactly throwing the ball downfield. Okay. Now, in 2007, ESPN ranked the 91 team as the 4th greatest team in NFL history. You can look at 2 stats to get a pretty good idea just how great the team was. Yards gained per pass attempt and yards allowed per pass attempt. All right, the 91 Skins topped the NFL in each category. Mark Rippon, the starting quarterback, averaged 8.5 yards per pass attempt. The defense only gave up 6. All right. Throughout the regular season, they outscored their opponents 485 to 224. That's more than 2-1. And they were considered to have had a very tough schedule. And that's in the NFL where everyone's relatively similar and anybody can be anybody on any given day. All right. Their playoff run, they beat the Falcons 24-7, demolished the Lions 41-10. They had a first round bye. And then they beat the Bills 37-24. So we're talking a 17-point win, a 31-point win, and a 13-point win. That's 61 combined points divided by 3 games. That's just over 20 points, 20.33 points per margin of victory. I actually just did all that math in my head. I didn't even need a calculator, Jake. I feel like calculators and spell check have made me dumb. Well, slightly dumber than the average guy, our new show motto. All right. So the Skins and the Commanders here, it's tough because I'm looking at what they were then, what they're called now. At least they're not called the stupid football team anymore. That drove me nuts. But since 91, 0 NFC Championship game appearances, 0-3 in the divisional round, 12 different head coaches, and 36 starting quarterbacks. That's crazy. So I'm very happy for them. It's interesting. When I saw Dan Gibbs on the sideline, so before I got drafted, I went down to Houston where I trained for the Combine and the Senior Bowl. You go to the Combine, you come back, you train, you got Pro Day coming up. I went to Pro Day, and then you get a bit of a break, except you don't. I was flown, and I actually enjoyed this part. I was flown all over the place. I went up to New York. I went to St. Louis. I went to Seattle. I went to Washington. I went to all these different places. They want to talk to you face to face. Now they can do interviews at the Combine, at Senior Bowl. Some of these teams want to interview you a couple times. I know for a fact Mike Shanahan wanted to draft me with the Broncos. They never spoke to me once. And I remember my agent being like, that's a good sign. Because there's so many smoke screens. If you want somebody and another team knows it and you're ahead of them in the draft and then they want them to, they're gonna jump you to try to, they might leapfrog you to take the pick and the guy you want. And so there's so many smoke screens. So it's proven over the years, Mike Shanahan never brought in guys he wanted to draft. In fact, I think it was like 3 guys in the history of his coaching career he actually brought into the facility to interview them that they ended up drafting. How long was he there? Like 2 decades? Like forever. And so when they didn't bring me in, my agent's like, that's a good sign. But I remember going to DC and having dinner, and I forget who the GM was at the time, but I freaking knew who Dan Gibbs was. Okay, I watched him win that Super Bowl in '91 with Washington. And so we ate at some fancy steak restaurant. He was sitting there. He was just like the nicest guy in the world, just happy-go-lucky, smiley. It was just the 3 of us. He was just the nicest dude in the world. Like, I don't remember really what we talked about. I think he talked a little bit about Nebraska and asked me a few questions. It wasn't like Eric Mangini, who was the head coach of the Jets at the time, and he interviewed me at the Combine. Everybody was so different, so different. The Titans, Coach Fisher, when they brought me in, it was like a comedy hour. You get 15 minutes. If you're at the Combine, if you're flying in to see the team, you're there the whole time until you leave. But like Eric Mangini at the Combine, I walk in, there's legit like 30 people in this one hotel room. They make me go around the room and everybody introduces themselves to me, all 30 plus freaking people. It took like a solid 3-4 minutes. Then after everyone had introduced themselves, they go, well, what's that guy's name? I have no freaking clue. What's that guy? And I didn't know anybody's name. This was like my 10th meeting that night. And I wasn't paying very good attention. I didn't know anybody's name. So that set a really awkward tone. And I didn't know who their head coach was because Eric Mangini had literally just been hired like a month before. They go, who's that guy right there? And they point right to him. And I was like, I don't know. What's he do here? I was like, I don't know. Is he the equipment manager? Everyone burst out laughing. Like, no, that's our head coach. I was like, well, I'm not going to New York. Oh, man. Now, they didn't act surprised at all. I don't think I was the first guy or even close to it that had done this poorly. Then, which a lot of teams did, a lot of teams had you watch like 15 plays from your career. Some teams would just have 15 plays. They were picked out for a reason. A lot of teams picked your worst 15 plays. So they proceeded to put up my worst 15 plays for my entire college career. So needless to say, this was by far my least favorite pre-draft meeting. From not knowing anybody to thinking the head coach. I mean, he's short and round. Like, he doesn't say NFL head coach at all. Like, he looked like an equipment manager. Not that you have to look that way, but I was so like uncomfortable at this point. And then they brought up my worst plays, and then they're just yelling and screaming at me. And I was like, well, that was a lot of fun. That's 15 minutes I'd like to never remember again. And then ironically, the Titans meeting was literally my next one, and it was comedy hour. And I was not prepared for all the jokes they were lofting my way. I was in a completely different headspace at that point. But coming back to the meeting with Gibbs, he was just like the nicest guy, the friendliest guy ever. And I've always, like, it's hard not to root for a guy like that who's just a good dude. I remember my pre-draft meeting with the Chiefs. Herm Edwards was their head coach at the time. And I became a fan of Herm. Because remember, players are human beings. And at the Combine, I was getting up like every morning at like 4:35, doing a million different mental tests, drug tests. You don't do the actual physical test until you've been there 3 or 4 days. And so he pulls up 15 plays. And by this time, he was one of my last meetings. By this time, I recognized the 15 plays. Because there started to be a repetitiveness to the god-awful plays that they were pulling up that I had not done so great at during my college career. And I see the first play, and I don't know what I did. I must have just had this just abhorred look on my face because Herm looked at me, paused, shut off the screen, the projector, and said, let's just talk for 15 minutes. I think he like took pity on me. And ever since then, I've been like a big fan of him. So anyways, it's part of the process. It's interesting. But anytime I see Joe Gibbs, I'm like, that's just a good dude who's one of the greatest football coaches of all time. When we come back, we'll put a final thought. Talking about a guy who needs a hug, Mark Andrews. I needed a hug that night. Mark Andrews needs a hug. He's still one of the best tight ends in the NFL. We'll put final thoughts on the Ravens, Bills, and I don't know if there's anything from the text line, Jake. We'll address those as well. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back.
It's the new year, and it's time for a new John Deere. Acres has all new John Deere compact tractors, mowers, and Gator UTVs on sale with money-saving financing options. Whether it's recreation or landscaping, Acres has the John Deere for you. Visit your local Acres store for details. And don't forget, Acres has a full lineup of used equipment as well. Act now. These incentives expire January 31st, 2025. Financing program subject to approved credit with John Deere Financial. Some restrictions may apply.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Cobble Chevrolet GMC, and we wanted to give a special shout out to all of our great customers, thanking you all for a record-setting year in 2024. Now let's get the new year rolling with some big savings. Right now at Cobble, we have some of the biggest discounts in the area with over $12,000 off list price or 0% APR on select new models. So stop on in the dealership or hit us up online at cobblecars.com to get true low country overhead in action. $12,000 off list or 0% APR right now at Cobble. So please stop on in or visit us at cobblecars.com. You'll be glad you did.
Are you a skilled mechanic looking for your next big opportunity? Constructors is hiring. We're looking for experienced mechanics to join our family-owned team. We offer competitive wages, great benefits, brand new service trucks, OEM-level diagnostic software, and career growth opportunities. Positions include lead and A-level mechanics for our shop and multiple field technicians. If you're driven and ready to grow with a company that's been around since 1908, apply today at constructorslincoln.com.
Hey there, fellas. It's your girl Jordan with Sartor Heyman Jewelry. Allow me to get a bit sappy. For women, jewelry isn't just a gift. It's a timeless symbol of love and appreciation. You have to get this right. No fleeting trends or gadgets will make the impact. Every time she wears it, every time she gets a compliment, you win. Trust me, guys, you'll get your money worth. Until next time, this is Jordan at Sartor Heyman Jewelry. Happy shopping, guys.
Salt Mine City is now open at 8th and R in the Haymarket. Come check out Lincoln's newest brewery with 12 beers on tap, including the popular Single Axle Light American Lager, Brick Street Amber Wheat, and so many more. There's daily drink specials like $1 off Moscow Mules on Tuesdays, $6 IPAs on Fridays, and $6 Bloody Marys on Saturdays. Stop by Tuesday through Thursday from 4 to 9 p.m., Fridays 4 to 11 p.m., Saturdays 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Sundays from noon to 8 p.m. It's Salt Mine City, Lincoln's newest brewery at 8th and R.
Hey volleyball fans, this is Laura Dijkema, national player of the Netherlands and now the setter on Omaha's newest professional team, Love Omaha Volleyball. League volleyball is bringing the heat this year. Don't miss your chance to see Olympians, national players and national champions right here in Omaha from now through April. We can't wait to see you cheering for us in the stands. Visit lovboma.com to buy single match tickets to see me and Love Omaha Volleyball in action. Go Big Green!
Things that impair you come in many different shapes and sizes. Some are the shape of beer and liquor bottles. Others look like cigarettes but aren't cigarettes at all. These are the things we know impair us, the things our parents warned us about. What we're not always aware of is our new prescription or the over-the-counter medicine we picked up just for allergies or a bad cold. See, it doesn't just matter how much of a substance you take. If you are impaired, driving is deceptively dangerous. Don't drive impaired. Paid for by the NDOT Highway Safety Office.
Rashawn Jackson here for Bauer Underground, who has been serving local contractors and utility contractors all across the state since 1997. When you see the black and white trucks, you know the baddest dudes in the business have arrived. Bauer is currently looking for equipment operators, laborers, diesel mechanics, and aerial linemen. Join the brotherhood built on hard work, authentic people, and pedigree of success. Bauer, a family-friendly company who reminds you, go Big Red!
I used to smoke. I thought of cigarettes as my best friend.
They were always there for me when I needed a break.
I also thought cigarettes were my best friend, and then they gave me peripheral artery disease.
I smoked and had a stroke. Actually, multiple strokes.
I smoked and have heart disease.
Here's my tip. If cigarettes are your friend, you need a better friend.
Call the Nebraska Tobacco Quit Line, 1-800-QUIT-NOW, 1-800-784-8669. Paid for by Tobacco Free Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
At Union Bank, people don't have your money. Your money has people. First home people, investment people, people who answer the phone and your chats, dream car people, dream retirement people, driving your dream car in your dream retirement people, small business people, credit card people, and all the other people you need. At Union Bank, our people help you do more than you dreamed possible. So stop in and say hello. We can't wait to see you. Union Bank and Trust. Member FDIC.
Hi, it's Joel Norman, the voice of your Lincoln Stars hockey team. Tune in to 93.7 The Ticket to hear the latest on the Stars with myself, head coach Rocky Russo, and special player guests.
In every office, there's two types of people. There are those who bring in bagels and those who eat the bagels that someone else brought in. Everybody likes the first person. Be that first person. Weekday mornings at 7:30, you have a chance to win a business box of bagels from Bagels & Joe. All you have to do is shut up, Sipple. 2 questions for you, 2 for Sip. Win, and the bagels are yours. Lose, well, you don't want to lose.
You lost Monday, you lost Wednesday, you're a loser.
Shut up, Sipple. Weekday mornings at 7:30, brought to you by Bagels & Joe. This is the Adam Carriker Show on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Boom! Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Adam Carriker Show. We got to finish this show strong. Check out all things. The Ticket at theticketfm.com, CarrikerChronicles.com, YouTube Carriker Chronicles, YouTube 93.7 The Ticket. Jake, what do we got from the text line, my man?
Well, you asked earlier if people might consider taking Will Howard before a Shedeur Sanders in the draft. The text line certainly feels that way. 5022 says Will Howard, 100%. The proof is in the pudding. And in fact, that's from Jordan from Milford. 1922 says Will Howard as well. And Big Slim says Sanders is more talented, but Howard, I think, will be a better pro. And then a question for you, too, as well. Tommy says, hey, Adam, is Lamar Jackson what a healthy RG3 should have been? Biggest what-if at quarterback in history?
Yes. I've thought that a million times. And RG3 and Lamar are on the team together there in D.C. Think about this. They had Lamar, Heisman winner, Robert, Heisman winner. Then they had Mark Ingram, Heisman winner. Now they got Derrick Henry, Heisman winner. They like Heisman winners in their backfield there in Baltimore. The answer is yes. The long and short of it is yes. I think the difference is Lamar knows how to protect his body. Robert didn't, and that ends up being the difference. But their skill sets are eerily similar. I think Robert's top-end speed is a little bit better. I think Lamar's in-space quickness is a little bit better. They both can throw really well. They both have insane accuracy. The short answer is yes. And I've thought that a million times watching them, and I know they're good friends to this day. Robert tweets about him all the time. So that's cool. All right. Do we have something else before I move on? I was thinking there was one other thing. Am I missing something?
Not necessarily. We got some clips that could play, but
yeah, we'll get to that. Paul Feinbaum actually earned some of my respect. Okay, so we're going to play that here in a minute. Final thoughts, Bills, Ravens, Josh Allen. First of all, the hug at the end of the game between those two, the top two MVP candidates, I thought the respect shown. Actually, they saw each other before the game. There was a hug before the game. Immediately after the game, Josh Allen ran over to Lamar. They gave each other a hug. I love the respect, okay, between the two of those guys. I do think Jaden Daniels, Josh Allen are playing the best ball of any of the quarterbacks that are left in the playoffs, which is saying quite a bit because Jalen Hurts, banged up knee. Maybe he's struggling because of that. Patrick Mahomes, still Patrick frickin' Mahomes. All right, falling down on his face and hits Travis Kelce in the end zone for a touchdown. And then Kelce just stands there and stares at everybody because he's probably daydreaming about Taylor Swift and Caitlin Clark up in the boxes watching him. But you look at the Bills, you look at the Ravens, Josh Allen, the only quarterback in NFL history to average 250-plus pass yards and 50-plus rush yards, all right, throughout his NFL playoff career. The Baltimore Ravens, including their first-round playoff game, 18 games this year, 0 times they had lost the turnover battle. 0, ladies and gentlemen. Kind of like Notre Dame was number 1 in the country in points off turnovers and turnovers forced. -3 turnovers for the Ravens on Saturday. -3. That was the difference. I thought they outplayed the Bills, if I'm being bluntly honest. We just go to total yards. 416 to 273. Ravens over Bills. Turnovers. Bills 0, Ravens 3. And, much love and respect to Mark Andrews. He's one of the best. I bring him up for the same reason that I'm happy for Ryan Day. There's ups and downs, and you're getting paid a lot of money, and there's going to be overreactions, and that dude's going to come back next year as good or better than he's ever been, in my humble opinion. All right. We got some clips. So I think what bothered me the most about Lane Kiffin after they mollywopped Duke in their bowl game, was that the bowl game where they had mayonnaise poured all over him? No, that was Row Your Boat. PJ Fleck. Yeah. He had mayonnaise poured all over him. Then Flava Flav popped out because those guys are 2 peas in a pod. But after they beat Duke and after the Big Ten had dominated the SEC 5-1 throughout the college football playoff and bowl games, then Lane Kiffin on the clip we already played, talks about how it's just another level in the SEC and nobody's been down south and you have no idea what you're in for. I'm like, dude, you guys have won one bowl game before now. And that was a 3-point win, Missouri over Iowa. And that was it. Like, just chill. Paul Feinbaum has earned my respect. And it's not because he's saying what I agree with now. It's because he's looked at what's going on. He's owned it. And he's talking about what is actually true instead of what he wants to be true. Are we going to play them? There's 2 clips. Are we going to play them both as one clip or 2 separate clips?
2 separate clips.
All right, go ahead and play clip number 1.
As a former columnist, I accept it all. I mean, I don't think I'm a sacred cow about anything I say or do, and I can be held accountable, and I have been held accountable, and I look pretty silly, but that's fine. We all end up looking pretty silly at times, and I never could wrap my arms around Indiana. That was one that bothered me. SMU bothered me, but Alabama took care of that by looking so inept against Michigan. It was the next morning I was in New Orleans, and I was on with Mike Greenberg, and he said, "So, yeah, typical Green." And I just I literally got. It wasn't a hotel towel. It was I took the sheet off of my pillowcase in the 2-star hotel we were staying at in New Orleans, and it just started waving. And I said, "I'm done." I mean, at some point you have to accept. What I really hate are SEC honks who never will give it up. Who say, "Oh, okay, yeah, but look at the talent. We'll win it on draft day." I mean, I am not that guy, and I think you guys know me well enough. Even though when it's over, it's over, and this fight is over.
I could respect that. I mean, there was an extended period of time when the SEC was probably the best conference. It hasn't been that way for 2 years. I maintain a year ago it was the Pac-12. This year it is the Big Ten. I can respect a guy who's looking around and says, "You know what? I own it. I was wrong." I have no problem saying that here on the show. I've had people text me in corrections, and I correct myself on air. People will text it into the text line. You don't have to be right. You just have to have a reason beyond feelings and emotions for what you're saying. And when you're right, there's no problem pointing that out, but do it with class. And if you're wrong, own up to it. So I actually now have a lot more respect for Paul Feinbaum. But there's one more clip we want to play. Go ahead and play that.
I can't sit here and say that you're not influenced by where you are every week. And for 14 weeks, I'm at an SEC game. So that doesn't mean I don't see the other games. I do. And I keep up with it like you guys do, but I just don't travel to them and I'm not exposed to them. And maybe if I'd gone up to Indiana and spent a day with Kurt Signetti, I would have better understood the story of how he completely moved his former team from JMU over to Bloomington and was successful, which is remarkable. But I would have liked to have seen him, as I said many times, play Georgia's schedule. I realize that's not possible. But when you sit there in Athens the night before the Tennessee game, and Kirby Smart takes you aside after the interview that you do with him and just goes ballistic over where he's ranked. I mean, you tend to be influenced by that.
Mm-hmm. You could have just Googled Signetti, Paul. I mean, he does consistently.
I didn't know who he was until the playoffs.
When you look at the SEC season overall, why do you think that when you looked at the top of the sport, the Big Ten and Notre Dame passed the league this year?
Auto insurance all seems the same.
Oh, there we go. That's not good.
We got cut off. Basically, he talked about how the top quarterbacks in the SEC didn't play well. Jalen Hurts, Carson Beck, the top quarterbacks in the SEC, not one of them played up to the level that people thought they would in the preseason, even Quinn Ewers. Okay, those were the top 3 guys he mentioned as to why the Big Ten kind of surpassed the SEC. My point is simply, in that second clip, he admitted, I basically just watched SEC games. I didn't even know who Kurt Cigarette was. Yes, I mispronounced his name on purpose because he talked unnecessary trash. And we'll get into that more in the future. But my point is simply this. I can respect a guy who has self-awareness. Hey, this is what I watch. I didn't even know who Indiana really was or who the head coach was until the playoffs. And he was willing to be upfront and honest about that. And that's what I try to do here. If I'm right, hey, phenomenal. If I'm wrong, feel free to correct me at any point in time. I just wanted to point that out. If I'm going to criticize Paul Feinbaum for his bias, and if he's going to come out and say things like that, I want to applaud him for his openness, his honesty, and his willingness to own up to things. All right, ladies and gentlemen, tune in tomorrow. Steve Taylor. I'll be back on Thursday. Go Big Red Nose. Remember to throw the ball.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com. On the internet. KNTK FM Firth. 93.7 The Ticket.
If you're sick of catering from the same places every month, it's time to switch